All right. The sun just came out in Boston, but it has been a rainy morning, so it's good to see folks here with us. And Joe, welcome to the 9:30 call.
Good to be here.
Yep, we can hear you. And so, Carla is sending a very excited Joe. I will
Hi, Carla.
monitor chat. Our first question that we ask all 9:30 callers is for you to tell us a little bit about you and how you came to be in your current role, and then we'll be excited to hear your update.
Hey, everyone. My name is Joe or Joseph Rosenbaum. I've had an interesting path to my role. I started off sort of on the clinical mental health psych side of things and then started dipping my toes into the early ed space when I went to go get my master's degree in social work from Boston College. I ended up actually at an internship, and this is why Carla's so excited, at the United Way of Mass Bay, doing a lot of work in the early ed space because I found that to be, both research based and in my heart of hearts, the place where we can make the greatest impact for youth is as early on as we can. My role evolved there. We got a pretty significant grant to run a citywide program called BOSSDEM. It was a 5-year research-based grant that we did, where essentially supporting out-of-school time programs and Boston Public School students, primarily middle schoolers, and helping to engage in more STEM-related activities to boost that interest so that we can get more diversity in the STEM space. So not everyone looks like me, but maybe with better hair. Um,
And this week
from
is STEM week in the Commonwealth, and we know
Mhm.
there's been a lot of focus on that, so good timing.
Yes. So what that role pretty much meant, though, is I was more or less an adult educator, both helping and supporting out-of-school time provider staff who typically aren't going to have a STEM background,
Right.
to learn how to teach STEM to that age group in an engaging project-based way and based on the data, both in terms of research that's been done in the past and the data that we would get in terms of the programs and the students filling stuff out. From there, and what I'll be mostly focusing on today, the day that ChatGPT dropped, I feel like changed a lot of things in the world, and particularly for me. I became a little bit obsessed, I'd say, in terms of both the potential upsides, but I would say also the high downsides of this technology and what would it mean for us for our society. So. I'll be going through this in the presentation a little bit more, but that shifted me more towards educating folks on how to use this technology, but specifically how to use this technology responsibly, which is how I eventually landed up here on the entrepreneurship route. Started my own company with my brother, who I co-founded with, really focusing particularly on Massachusetts-based nonprofits and small businesses to support you all in how to leverage this technology for good, essentially.
Great. Well, thanks so much. If you have slides, you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, let me do
And
that up.
as you're getting set up, I just want to take a little SFC moment and welcome back Jaylise LeBlanc, who has been our program assistant, who's been out on family leave. Today is her first day back. So welcome back, Jaylise. We're happy that you're here. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, well, again, I appreciate you all taking some time out of your day to listen to me, and I hope I can be supportive to you all. Again, I'm from Synaptic Labs, and I want to talk about responsible AI as a mission multiplier for you all. And really, we're focused on powering the equitable access to this technology through education and integration. As I said, I have a nonprofit background. I've done a lot of adult education, and I've actually self-taught how to code and create automations and all that good stuff over the last couple of years. This technology, again, is a crazy multiplier. If you're just curious about something, it's pretty ridiculous how quickly you can learn things you thought you wouldn't be able to learn before. So here's just some stats. I will follow up with this presentation after, and you can see I have the website where I'm getting all this stuff, but just some patterns and themes I'm seeing both in the data and generally in the conversations I've been having with nonprofits or community support organizations. there's a pretty large preparation gap. Like most people don't feel prepared for how to use AI. And in particular, there's a lot of uncertainty around the technology and mistrust, much of which is well-founded, although that shouldn't be something that keeps you away from the technology, as I'll talk about soon. About 75% say some sort of vision exists. It's like we know we want to use AI for X, but it's just really hard to execute, both in terms of there's like, if you don't know how to use the technology, how are you going to implement and execute something? And typically, the price to bring in, let's say, a consultant to help you with that can be quite high in and amongst all the things you already have to do for your day to day. So it becomes kind of a capacity problem too, of like, I don't have the time to learn and teach myself this stuff, even though I know in the end it might help out in a variety of ways. In terms of revenue, the impact is real. Obviously, this is all very new, but we're seeing in specific areas, I mean, I guess especially fundraising, that nonprofits are reporting some boosted revenue in these past 12 months when they're using AI in strategic ways. Again, not in ways that totally replace the human. I'm sure your donors that you're stewarding probably might have some feelings about if you're using AI a certain way, but there's also plenty of other ways you can use it again to expand your scope and do more than one person could do. Around those lines, though, donors are starting to show or insist on nonprofits start using AI. They think AI can really help them in things like marketing, fundraising, and admin. And so I think if you haven't already started seeing it, you're going to start to see in your applications for grants, like how are you leveraging AI to do more or whatever it might be. And obviously, if you have an answer to that in a use case, that's going to make you a little bit more competitive. And then there's a lot of unstructured experimentation. Very few nonprofits I've talked to have like, everyone in the company has an account, everyone has a policy. That is not what's happening. People will often have a personal account. They're putting whatever they want to or think will be helpful into there. And there's no sort of structure or guidance, again, on how to use this stuff through either formal training or, some sort of policy to follow to make sure you're using it ethically. I also, not that there's already too much getting put on folks like you all, but there is this ethical prerogative I am seeing where there's a difference between how enterprises is approaching this and how nonprofits can be really driving the conversation. And really, this comes to incentives, right? Enterprise, we're trying to make money. Nonprofits, we're trying to make social good. And so we can see there's pretty stark difference between how those incentives then inform how this technology is used and driven. Right now, the lead is being done by enterprise because, they have the money to do this, I guess. But they're focused really on cutting staff to boost profits. At the end of the day, I mean, they can say whatever they want, but you can see people are getting cut in a ton of different roles. And interestingly enough, these more white collar type roles, these knowledge work roles, because we were expecting AI to automate away things like truck drivers, but really we're finding it's the thinking stuff that is getting automated away, like coding, for example. Versus nonprofits, it's all about amplifying human impact. It's okay, how many more people can I help using this technology? Not how many people can I cut using this technology. We're all already under capacity and understaffed.
So as you're
The
going, there's
mo
one question in the chat, which is basic question from Don Holly. How do you define old, wait, my God, hold on, how do you define AI versus plain old technology?
Well, AI is definitely, I think, a broader term where when I'm saying AI right now, I am really talking about generative AI, things like large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini, or image generators, video generators, whatever. Artificial intelligence as a whole, though, is really focused on something called machine learning. Essentially, you're teaching a machine how to do a task, usually following some sort of method, right? Where you have human started off usually like labeling things like this is a cat, this is a dog. And then there's some sort of algorithm, which is essentially guessing based on like, oh, I see like a kind of ear that's a little bit more pointed, or this seems larger against the background, or it's trying to catch a frisbee or something like that. Eventually enough wrong answers lead to right ones. And then those right ones, inform the algorithm moving forward so that it understands when I see these sorts of features, like wheels or something, that's probably a car. This is advanced to language now with large language models, right? Using something called deep neural networks, where really all ChatGPT is doing, right, is guessing the next word. It's obviously more complex than that, but just on your like autocorrect, I mean, how many times have
Yeah.
you typed something on your phone and it's like this is the next word or it fixes your typo? It's a similar thing, just like on steroids. Versus just general technology. Some technology will have AI, will use machine learning. Some is just typical software written in code, doesn't have any algorithms, just using a programming language. And then some stuff is like hardware or whatever it might be. I hope that answers your question.
Great, thanks.
Um, okay, back to the motive. Huge difference in motive of enterprise versus nonprofits. Enterprise, it's the shareholders that drive everything, not community welfare. And on like we all know, it's often like it causes trouble for community welfare in terms of what the shareholders want. Versus, as we know, nonprofits and community-based organizations, we're mission driven. And that means there's an opportunity here, I think, to shape AI's future. If we abandon it and don't use it, we're actually leaving the keys to the castle to enterprise. And then just generally our values, AI for profit, not for social good versus nonprofits and community-based organizations, we are built on a set of values, right, that we adhere to for the common good. And that should be driving how we use AI and setting that model for other folks and how they can be using AI responsibly. So these are just a few use cases we've heard about. There's a ton more, but just generally, I'd recommend if you haven't started using AI yet, these are some good places to start. First is one of the most obvious ones is streamlining your grant applications, co-writing your grant applications, doing research for grant applications, either for grant applications to apply to slash like to include data in your grant applications. Enhancing your caregiver communication. This technology has gotten like crazy good at translating things. So I know a lot of you work with families, right, that English is not their first language. You might have to have like one of the siblings being your translator. Well, now it's more accessible than ever to have, a 90% understandable conversation with just having like some AI, generative AI up on your phone, talking into it, being like, this is what I'm saying, translate it to Spanish or whatever it might be. It's going to get you most of the way there. But then also just general, like if you need to email a parent or something like that, obviously you don't want to be putting personal identifiable information in there, but if you're just trying to say like, oh, your kid did so great at such and such today, like, you're not necessarily sharing personal information. And then just speeding up program reporting. I mean, how much time do you have to put into on the back end of the grants, right? Reporting to your funders, like what actually happened. Many of us do not have a data analyst degree, and so we have to depend on others. We can't necessarily ask the data using natural language, like what we're trying to get out of it and run those analyses. But now you can. It's pretty crazy. The data analysis you can actually do. Just in these platforms directly, just by asking it. So overall, this is the vibe that I've been getting from my conversations. The current reality is like everyone's talking about this technology. People are kind of like under the radar experimenting with it, but have no idea if what they're doing is right or is responsible. Like you don't even know, is like, would this be ethical? There's a lot of like we see the potential, but we're kind of worried about losing that human touch, especially for a human-centered organization. And we don't really know how to get from kind of like where we are right now to where we want to be. And I just want to acknowledge that feeling and that you are definitely not alone here both in in terms of nonprofits and the world at large. Most people I talk to feel this way, so you're not behind. The difference is like, are you willing to move from those ad hoc experiments to really understanding this technology, developing some strategies that are aligned with your values and your approach to help you improve your mission? So how do you do that? I have a boatload of free resources, including a nonprofit AI enhanced workflow, which we will share with you in whatever follow-up communications there are. I also want to mention there is a Commonwealth Corporation grant that we have been approved by as vendors. We have a variety of different trainings, 2 day, multiple week, 2 hour, in-person, hybrid, whatever. and it can be up to 100% reimbursable for eligible organizations. Again, I have a link on that goes through all that stuff, but all I'm saying is there's a high likelihood that we can get you training and support for free, in sort of whatever format that makes the most sense for you. I'd also say if you're like looking for money to incorporate this technology, I am more than happy to connect with any funders that you're talking to who have expressed interest in this and try to help put together a more sort of like community focused type grant so that you can get your hands on this technology in a little bit more of a strategic and organizational way. And the last is there's just a lot of ways to learn about this stuff. We do education, strategic planning, policy creation. We can implement stuff, app development, and it's like much cheaper than it has ever been. So we can build stuff for you. But if you're just looking to have a conversation, if you just need like 20, 30 minutes to get some questions answered, I will make sure we follow up with my booking link. I'm happy to just hop on a call and shoot around some ideas with you at no cost as well. So yeah, this is again, we'll follow up with some of this stuff, but feel free to reach out to me. Check out our website, YouTube. I have a whole small business series you can go into, and yeah, I look forward to talking to anyone and nerding out about this stuff if anyone's interested.
Thanks so much, and thanks to Justin Pasquarello who connected us originally. You have some questions in chat, but thanks so much for the. And if you send me the slides, we have a follow-up folder where we add all of the materials that we've had for the last 5+ years. Another Joe wonders, any concern that grantors will filter out applications that are written by AI and they won't get awarded?
Yeah, I doubt it. All of those AI detectors do not work reliably. And really, if your application is getting caught by it, then you didn't spend probably enough time putting your own flair on it, right? Like it can get you 80% of the way there,
Right.
like the
So you
fill in the
can't just
blanks
like
and whatever.
plug it
Yeah,
in
you
and
can't
check.
just like copy and then paste
Right.
that in and it's probably hallucinated and made stuff up. It's solving the blank page issue where you can feed it all the context you need. You're telling it like this is kind of the format and the rules I have to abide by. And then it gets you there that 80% in, 3 minutes. And then you have to take maybe an hour or so for that other 20% to put your own spin on it.
Right.
Uh, some common things you want to look out for are things like M dashes are very AI ease right now. Just the large dash. The words like delve and revolutionary. Yeah, there's a ton of kind of like AI ease type words that you can kind of like filter for. But
Right.
again, really, it's about get you quickly to a point where you can put your own spin on it.
And Brianna says, I'm finding myself questioning every email I'm receiving. Was this really written by the sender or did they use AI? I feel like it is getting in the way of relationships. Can you speak to this specifically if organizations should consider policies around internal, external communication, especially when there is a sensitive topic being discussed? And Joe, you should lead these. I love that you have an MSW because I think that is such an mix. I don't think that's typical, and I think that's I was just on a call with one of our national funders around AI, and it was exactly to Brianna's question. Like, and you mentioned it too around the policy. So can you talk a little bit more about that and answer Brianna's question?
Yeah, I think everyone's trying to kind of navigate this stuff. I usually think about it in sort of three Venn diagram circles: risk, opportunity, and systems. So for the emailing one, you really want to think about what is the risk in your unique use case. So for example, Amy sends out these amazing emails to prepare us for, these meetings. Does that really need to be personalized? It's more or less the same thing every time with a little bit changed. Like that might be a good thing to do for AI because it could save her a lot of time and like you receiving that email, you're not like, oh, Amy, you're not personalizing this for me, you
I
know?
mean, but Joe, but what about all my exclamation points? But I bet
Yes.
AI would figure that out.
Yeah, yeah. You give it some examples it can follow. Versus, like you said, if you're like emailing an internal colleague about something sensitive, like you don't want to be using AI necessarily to do that email. But let's also imagine a scenario where like you're very frustrated and annoyed at something that has happened, and the first email you've written is like firebrand. And if you were to send that, that would cause issues for a lot of people. well, yes, maybe you can take some time to cool down. Maybe you can go rewrite it. But I don't know. To me, at least personally, I feel like, can I then use that and use AI to help me structure that in a more constructive way? And I think that's something where if then that person came to me and was like, did you write AI with this? It comes down to, are you comfortable being transparent about it? Are you comfortable saying, look, after we talked, I was pretty frustrated. I was going to send an email, right? That was not going to help anything. So I did use AI to help me kind of, bring it to be a more constructive place. I think that's kind of the gut check, at least for the email question. If someone were to ask you if you used AI to write that
Right.
email, if you are uncomfortable telling the truth, then you probably shouldn't have used AI to write that email.
That's good advice. Brian Golds is hot on chat today. As we think about AI for nonprofits, I came across this analysis from the Building Movement Project's Race to Lead 2022 survey. They're doing a new one. And then he adds some statistics. 60% of nonprofits report demanding workloads. Frontline workers feel less heard. So it's kind of like, how can we use AI to help support our staff instead of burning them out?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I don't think there is like a single answer because your needs as a specific nonprofit and your tolerance and your use cases are going to be different from the next person. I guess many of you are in early ed, so it actually is probably going to be somewhat similar. But this
Right.
gets back to this idea of a policy is like, yes, there are best practices, but we are forging a new path. Like no one has quite 100% figured this out. And that
Right.
means policies not only have to be principle driven, but have to evolve with time and uses as like new things come up. You can't try to whack-a-mole with a policy where it's like you're trying to outline every single possible situation and edge case that can come up. It first needs to be driven by those principles that you develop, which then help you generalize to rules. So like you're going to need to have very specific rules and policies around, let's say, data governance, right? Like protecting people's data. But this
Right.
email question, that's kind of like a call for you as an organization. And again, if you try to outline every single possible situation where you're using AI for email or not, that's a losing battle. No one's going to ever remember that. But if your policy is essentially like gut check, would you be comfortable telling someone that you wrote AI with this? Like people can follow that a lot sort of more viscerally and internally.
And folks have asked for your contact information, so I've added there's a link that you can book with Joe. And you can also email me and I can connect you. Edna wondered if the grants that you mentioned would be available for family child care providers.
So yeah, I would have to think about it, but the way it works right now is you need to be a small business for 100% reimbursability. You need to be a small business of 50 or less people.
Yep, check.
You can be pretty much any company type, LLC, corp, nonprofit, whatever, but the difference for nonprofits is that you need to be paying into
Oh, it's the
the
Commonwealth Corp, right? So it's like
yeah,
that
yeah. The
employment
the
piece.
yeah, the unemployment fund. So you as a nonprofit or whatever, you have a choice. You
Right,
can either pay into the unemployment fund or not. If you're paying into the unemployment fund, then you're eligible. If not, you're not
right.
eligible because that's the money they're
Well, then we'll
using
just
to
ask
reimburse people.
AI where else to find money to fund those programs. Um, Carolyn Lyons founded Project Evident and the McGovern Foundation of Good Resources for nonprofits trying to figure out AI. Here's a link to Project Evidence analysis of the philanthropic opportunity gap, who is and who isn't funding AI. Things are changing rapidly. And I teach in higher ed, and now we have to have AI statements in our syllabus. Like a lot of them are giving you options like, yes, you can use it, AI. Yes, you can use it for a first draft. I've been experimenting using it as an instructor to say, like, this is what AI just told me about early childhood curriculum. Like, is it right? What would you add? Comfortable with it? Are there any AI options that you'd suggest as more environmentally sustainable?
Yeah, this is a question I've seen a lot with nonprofits. Again,
Yeah.
the environmental impact. So there's kind of two ways to think about this. One is that, okay, let's be honest. If you're using this to write a few grant applications or emails or whatever, the amount you are contributing, even on a massive scale, is essentially nothing. Again, the problem really comes to the enterprise side, who are overusing this technology to like a crazy extent, right? They're the ones, it's the same thing with general environmental stuff. It's like not you as an individual not recycling that causes the majority of the problems. It's heavy
Right,
industry that is contributing most. So again, that's not to say like you shouldn't think about it or it's morally okay. It's just like you do have to weight it like that of like how much am I
right,
actually contributing to the problem? But the other answer to that is if you can get like most of the new computers coming out right now, they have special chips in them which are specifically used to do what's called inference, essentially make a call to a large language model. And guess what? There are a bunch of open source models out there that you can run directly on your computer that are going to more or less, if you're not doing like heavy logic work like coding or math or
right.
like heavy research, like it is going to do most of what you need to do locally on your computer. And that uses significantly less, right, energy. And you're going to see it start, although here's the problem, right? You're going to see the energy use and costs come down. There'll be innovations, but you're still going to see usage go up. So
Right,
I think they'll even out. It's called
right.
Javon's paradox, right? Where like all because you can do more, for less doesn't mean you're going to do less.
Do
You'll
less
just
for
do
less.
more.
And then do you have examples of policies or where should folks go to look for those?
Yeah, I
Like
can
like
follow up with,
policies for staff and all that.
yeah, I can send a couple of resources after this.
That would be great. And we actually, if you can add it to the chat, excuse me, add it to your slides and we'll post the slides. We'll make sure everyone knows that they're there.
Sounds good.
And Neri added this article gives good examples of AI use in comparison of other tech. For example, Zoom. Yes. So, we record these calls with everyone's permission, but we also kick out AI when we record them. And then there are some calls that we don't record, and we kick AI out. And we've talked about that, like even Zoom just changing different functions that people are sending AI to meetings that they cannot attend. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I think we all learned a lot. We would love for you to continue to come back if you hear of any additional resources, or just stay in touch with me and we can get it out to this community. We did record today's call, so we will add that to our YouTube channel. And then when you send me the slides, we'll post them in our follow-up folder. But really appreciate the work that you're doing and the perspective that you're bringing. I think kind of your understanding of where people are just thinking about this is really critical. So thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate you all giving me the time and attention, and I hope to connect with some of you soon.
Great. 9:30 callers will be back tomorrow at 9:30 with update from the Interagency Task Force. Thanks so much.